Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis, and I'm a business growth strategist where I help business owners grow and scale to create freedom and choice. And today, I have an awesome guest. She's a director, executive and leadership coach, doctor of clinical psychology, former Controller-APAC, published author, accountant, and she is deeply passionate about facilitating awareness, growth, success, and meaningful change in leaders, executives, sports professionals, and high-performance people in any area of their lives by fusing executive coaching principles and psychological strategies to develop peak psychological performance. Welcome, Dr. Daria Kouznetsova, and thank you for being on my show.
Thank you so much, Athin, for having me. It's so lovely to meet you and to be on here today.
You're very welcome. I'm sure it's going to be amazing for everyone watching and listening today. So you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Okay, thank you. So for everyone that hasn't heard of me, yes, so it's been quite a broad journey where I have accomplished a few different arenas in my career. One was quite unexpected. So becoming a controller of APAC and becoming an accountant and a financial controller is definitely not something I planned for. It just kind of happened on the side while I was doing my psychology journey. So when I was 16, I decided what I wanted to do with my life, and it was always to do with helping people and becoming a psychologist. And right before I started uni, I really wanted to buy a sports car, and it was a really cool car at the time, but probably now it's not that cool. But it led me to, before starting uni, to getting a job as an office junior with 3 directors. And when I worked with them for a year, I basically learned very basic accounts, like how to fill out a deposit slip and how to write a check. And when I left there, a company that they underwrote, that I was doing the books for, asked me to become a bookkeeper half a day a week while I did my undergrad. So I decided to say yes to that. And I was there for about 10 years. And by the age of 24, I took on more and more from the CFO and the C-suite team. And just became introduced by the CFO to the new board of directors as the controller of APAC. And I remember standing there looking at him being like, what? Because I didn't realize that that's what was happening as I was taking on more and more of the work. So I went from kind of not knowing to leading operations and doing finance and accounting for APAC, because by then we were, USA, Europe, APAC, and we had a production facility in the Philippines. So I was very proud, absolutely loved the work. But by the time I was 26, I was in my doctorate by that stage. So it was a double degree. So it was a Doctor of Clinical Psychology and a Master of Science. And that's not something you can do full time and also be a controller of APAC for a multinational corporation full time. So at that stage, I had to wrap that up and focus primarily on clinical psychology. And then after that, I practiced in private practice. And then about 3 years ago, I set up my own private practice. So that's how I came to be so multi-skilled, I guess. But the whole time, what I've really wanted to do is find a way to combine everything that I love in one product. So when I started my postgrad, I really enjoyed my undergrad. But when I started clinical psychology in my doctorate, I found it really difficult. I will be completely honest. I do love the work. I love helping people, but I found the impact it had on me, the training. I struggled quite a lot with it because I feel like my area of talent is more in optimizing performance and helping people grow and elevate rather than treating mental illness per se, if that makes sense. So I did find that postgraduate course really difficult, but I couldn't quit because you don't get accepted into a doctorate of clinical psychology at Sydney Uni and go, I don't want to do it. So you just it was that mentality, like you have to see out your journey. You have to take it to the end. And I did, and I couldn't have been more proud. But the whole time I kind of sat there trying to find a way to combine the business, the finance, the psychology, and the passions that I have into something. And I feel like I've managed to do that today. So that's my story so far.
Yeah, awesome. Love that story. Really powerful of yeah, hey, you fell into something and made the most of it. And then I love the mindset behind still doing it, because I can relate with my MBA. When I went back, I didn't finish school and had to do that, and it was one of those things where it was challenging, and people probably telling you it was hard, but you pushed through, and like you said, you got the results, and now you're able to combine that doctorate with everything else that make something really powerful. So that's really, really awesome. Love it. Thank you for sharing, Daria. And yeah, so, obviously psychology, it's a big topic, and a lot of people probably, may not be aware. Let's call it, a lot of people maybe just watch TV, or, there's probably people out there that want to be better, but maybe they're not really aware or understanding, what is something about their, psychology there. So do you want to maybe share something about, psychological awareness, that maybe we need to gain it, to be more aware, and how we obtain that at the same time?
Absolutely. And I found that actually when I was sitting in with the doctorate, the first 6 months of the 3-year program are seminars and training, and then the rest is just placements. And I did find myself sitting there while we were being trained in how to practice. We were being taught skills and given information that made me think, why doesn't everyone know this? Like, a lot of the things we were being told, you don't need a mental illness to learn the information or learn the skills. Not all of the skills, obviously. And I do find that there's a big gap in that at the moment, because we don't really end up learning much about psychological awareness or flexibility or emotional intelligence or how to communicate properly until something goes wrong. And then you end up in a therapist's chair, and then you're there, sorting through all of that. Whereas there is no real preemptive opportunity for someone to learn how to have psychological awareness, as you just said. And once you are aware of your, thoughts and your feelings and action urges and behaviors, how to be more flexible around them. So a lot of people are quite rigid in their thinking, and we know that rigidity leads to unhappiness. So how many colleagues or ex people that you worked with have you met with like just one way of thinking, just black and white? They're super close-minded, and no matter what you said, they're like, it's just like one way. Like, how often have you met?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people that are a bit more closed, or I think as you get older as well. No offense to people as they're getting older, but they're they get more set in their thoughts as
100%.
well.
Absolutely. And so it's like where you want to be is much more flexible in your thinking. So being able to be open-minded or take 2 different perspectives on one issue, which actually reduces the amount of emotional anguish that we end up experiencing when we can be a bit more flexible. So that's not a skill that we get taught. Our parents can't teach us that. Our grandparents didn't teach our parents, because they were going through wars and bombs are dropping and you're constantly in fight flight. So there's no opportunity to be like, oh, what are you thinking today? How are you feeling? Let me give you a cuddle, sort of thing. It's very fight flight. So we don't have that luxury. I mean, we have the luxury of learning this today, whereas our parents and grandparents may not have. And what I find is that is a gap that is missing. It's like, how do I know what my psychology is? What's a thought? What's a feeling? And then once I know that, what do I do with it? How can I regulate my emotions? How do I even listen to my feelings? How do I communicate in the situations that really matter to me? And I think that that's a general difficulty that people have in this day and age, and kind of is the crux that's underneath most, not mental illnesses. Like, I'm not talking about that today. It's more general problems that we all face. Stresses, burnout, overwork, setting boundaries, trouble communicating in relationships, parenting, obviously at work, leading teams, listening to other people, and just that general sense of wanting to be better. I feel like the answer to that is missing from an evidence-based skill set, rather than, I also notice there's a lot of stuff out there that tells us what to do. There's mountains of self-help books, mountains of people posting what we should do, but I feel like there's very little content out there or skills to convert that into a how to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, you read how many sort of amazing, like, there's so many amazing books out there, but you read them and you listen to podcasts, you're like, yes, that sounds awesome, I'm going to do that. And then 2 days later, you're like, what? where did that go? Because it's the converting into action that's really difficult, and you can't do that unless you've got awareness and insight.
Yeah, definitely. Love that. Really powerful on how you broke that down. And one thing I might add to get your opinion on as well, like I like to think of it as like having a lens, and I think like to think of it of the lens of curiosity. Is like, why does that other person, have that type of thinking? Because it's just different, right? It's not that it's right or wrong. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts around that as well.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I think I think that's a really good perspective to have, especially in conflict in any situation, because beyond a moral threshold, there actually is no right or wrong. It's about respecting everybody's reality and opinion and perspective as valid. Like, we don't have to agree, but you can also respect someone's position and their lens, as you say, without having to get them on your side and think like you. It's like, look, I understand that that's what you think, but I disagree. Whereas a lot of people get caught up in, what can I do or say to get you to agree with me or understand me? And whereas realistically, I don't think anyone really has the right to say to someone else, your opinion is wrong or how you think is not right, because it's just a matter of opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that. So true. And it's such a, I'm sure this is a big realization for some people at the same time that are listening to this, that there is no right or wrong there. It's just everyone's got their opinion. I love it. And yeah, so now, you mentioned it before, emotional intelligence, right? And this is becoming more spoken about now, becoming more important, in business as well as in life, right? To have it there. So firstly, just share with us what you think is emotional intelligence, because people may not know what that is, and why it's important as well.
Absolutely. And so you're right, in business specifically, before I define it, there's been about 10 years of research where they've shown that a leader's emotional intelligence is directly related to the organization's performance. So, and we know that emotional intelligence is also more important than IQ for happiness. So really, it's like a untapped resource of skill set that's really hard to master, but once you do, it's extraordinary. So emotional intelligence basically means knowing what emotions are, first and foremost, being able to feel them in yourself and accept them as they are, be able to regulate your emotions because you're allowing yourself to feel them, and also feel and empathize with others. So if you can sit in that space, because the general consensus is, I have a negative feeling, I don't want to feel it. So I'm going to distract myself with work or alcohol or over exercise, over anything possible, because I don't want to feel my negative feelings. But once you come to realize that all emotions have a function and a purpose, and they just motivate behavior and communicate things, that's all they do. They become much less scary and intolerable. And the more we're willing to start feeling our feelings, the more we get to know who we really are at our core. And that makes us more authentic and more able to tap into our emotions. And then you're able to start communicating how you feel and saying what you need. And so you start getting more of what you want out of life. So without that, it's kind of like you're not really being you if you're constantly pushing away parts of you. And it's tough, again, because no one teaches us how to regulate our emotions, unless we had really, really, really emotionally intelligent parents, which are a scarce resource these days. And it's no one's fault. Again, that example I gave of our parents and our grandparents. So it's not about blaming. It's just about understanding that it's a beautiful thing to learn how to do. And that's develop emotional intelligence.
Yeah, love that. Really powerful distinctions there. And I guess one thing that I'd like to delve a little bit deeper on, because I hear a lot of people in business when they talk about emotional intelligence or just like making decisions, is that you don't want to like let your emotions take over, right, in business, because it can be there. So a lot of people are probably, like bottling, or, if something happens in the moment, maybe they're being triggered, but they're not maybe allowing themselves to go too far into the emotion, depending on what the situation is. So I'd like to hear your thoughts around that in sort of like a business, interaction perspective, and, how we can get sort of better outcomes for ourselves as well as others.
Of course. And I think one of the hardest things is that idea that an emotion can be too much or out of control or something dangerous, because the emotion itself is not. It's the behavior that can be dangerous. So if I'm 10 out of 10 raging because my business partner didn't do the thing I want and a deal went sideways and we didn't make it, I can be raging and speak assertively and say, I feel really angry about this. I'm going to need some time. I can be raging and, yell at the top of my lungs or explode, or I can be raging and try and bottle it up and pretend like everything is fine because I don't want to upset my business partner. But inevitably, in a few days, some little thing is going to make me explode anyway. So ironically, feeling the emotion is absolutely okay. And in the moment, it's about the way you communicate the feeling rather than stifling it and bottling it up and not saying what you really mean or what you really think, no matter whether it's in a business setting or any other setting. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great way of putting it there. So thank you for that distinction for me, as well as I'm sure a lot of other people, right? How that you can help yourself and have that distinction between feeling it versus how you're responding in the situation. So love it. That's awesome.
It is super common. It's like, oh, I don't want to be out of control. But if you think about what is out of control, like if there was a man running around screaming and shouting, that's definitely out of control. But if someone's really, really angry and they go for a walk, is that out of control? Or is that just, I'm just dealing with my genuine anger, and that's okay?
Yeah, exactly. As long as we're not affecting people too much around us, right? In that way.
Yeah. Exactly.
Everything in ecology, as we like to call it, with being nice, with the environment around us at the same time.
Absolutely. And again, like it goes back to that authenticity, because, we trust authenticity. We trust leaders and people in business that really are their authentic selves. And authentic self means, yes, sometimes I'm going to be angry. Sometimes I'm going to be frustrated. Sometimes I'm going to be upset and also happy and successful and a top gun at my business. And I'm going to show you that. And that vulnerability and openness is what actually inspires others and helps to lead. So paradoxically, feeling your emotions and owning them just makes you a better business leader and a business person.
Yeah, I love that. One other question that's just popping up for me right now that I'm thinking about is, what happens if someone's been trained, and this, I think that, I'm not going to be biased here, but I would say it's probably more of a male thing, right? Is that, they've been bottling things for a while, right? Like, I'm not here to feel my emotions. They're more of a left brain person or whatever it is. And maybe that it's tough for them to feel their emotions, because I see this, right, a lot, where they're just like, I'm fine, whatever. But what they really need to do is to actually, activate the areas where they can actually feel it, so they can regulate, as you mentioned before. So, what are your thoughts around that, and how you can sort of step into that again to, to start feeling them?
Absolutely. And I love that question. It's so common with men particularly, and it's really hard because you're raised to get on with it, be strong, get over it, don't cry. And you internalize that self-talk for when you have a feeling. And paradoxically and amazingly, they've done studies that show that women and men have absolutely no difference in how much they feel. The only differences are in the expression of emotion. So everyone who's listening now, who is a male, just letting you know that you do feel feelings just the same as females, and that's okay. It's beautiful because you're human, but it's the expression of emotion that's different. And so that's what emotional intelligence training targets. It's how are you turning towards yourself when you're feeling a feeling. And that's really hard because you can't, like, there's no quick tip I can give, because first you have to understand why we have emotions. And then you have to understand what each of those specific ones are like. And then it's about really developing that psychological awareness that we talked about before. Because if you're not aware of an emotion as different from a thought, it's really hard to sit in it. But I guess if I had to give a quick advice or a quick tip, it's just learning how to notice the physiological changes when you are feeling angry. And rather than saying to yourself, I have to get over it, or immediately reacting by, going for a run or having a drink, it's about, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes just to feel my anger. And maybe just breathing around it, give it some space, be like, okay, I'm super angry right now, and that's okay. So I'm just going to be angry for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that. Thank you for...
How nice would that be though? Like, rather than I shouldn't feel like this because all these reasons, it's
yeah, like you said, the society teaches us that, but it's okay to sit in it, and that's what I've been learning more as well recently is the regulation, because there's the talk about the books and stuff about, like, the body keeps score, right? Is where the emotions can be stuck in the body to some extent sometimes with people.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. That's sort of more unprocessed emotions. And as I said before, that's kind of at the crux of effective communication and assertive communication, because when we're passive, so we don't speak up and we bottle up how we really feel or what we really think on an important issue because we're too afraid to speak up, or we don't want to rock the boat, or we feel like our needs aren't as important as others, that creates resentment, and it builds and builds and builds and builds. And that's why passive behavior will eventually explode in an aggressive fashion, because it's going to come out eventually. And so emotion regulation is also about, you know, feeling your emotions and noticing when they are there, and then using them as a springboard to speak in an assertive way, because you can still say, look, I feel angry that this happened. Could you please do this in this way? That's not aggressive. And it's not passive. It's like, I've, you know, listened to how I feel on this topic that's important, and I've spoken up because my needs matter just as much as everyone else's, because I'm human and my opinion matters as well. And in that way, you're not giving yourself that opportunity to end up exploding in an aggressive fashion, because you've spoken up when it counts and set that boundary and set that limit. And again, that goes for everything in life, not just in business. And I think without emotional intelligence, you can't communicate assertively. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Love that. The connection with assertiveness and stuff there. And a lot of the time where, you know, there can be disconnects, or there can be a lot of alignment, is with values, right? And you know, people, you know, I know in business, but you know, it can just be generally talk about aligning, you know, personal values with business values where possible, right? So you get a great alignment there, and now and a good fit. So do you want to tell us a bit about values? You know, what you see as values, because I think there's a bit of you know, people think about values a little bit differently from the conversations I have, and maybe how we can maybe solidify our values as well.
Absolutely. No, I would love that. That's one of my favorite questions. I think values, a lot of people struggle to answer the question when you ask them, what are your values? Because it's just not something we ever really get in touch with. But values are like a core, deep guiding compass for what we really want to be, what really matters to us, what we stand for in life. So it can be things like, you know, meaningful work, love, nature, wealth, freedom, having a family. So there's many, many different values. And once you're able to identify your core values, then you can start aligning life and business with these core values. And values, once you start doing that, it gives you that feeling of, oh, I can't wait for the rest of the day. Or you wake up in the morning and you're like, I can't wait for my day to start, because your life is aligned with your core values. Whereas where life's misaligned with core values, you get that sense of feeling a bit flat and meaningless and a little bit purposeless, not in a dire way, but more of a, oh, like you don't have that genuine vigor when you wake up to start the day. And when, of course, aligning business values with your own core values is going to get you there. And then in business, aligning people with those core values is going to give you the team that you want, and it's going to motivate and inspire everyone every day without having to try.
Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful exercise to get in touch with your core values and really hone in on those. And it's not common today to know that for a lot of people.
Yeah, and like, just an additional thing to that is, like, this is in business when you're hiring people as well, right? Because you want to make sure that you're getting people that are, you know, like a cultural fit, that are aligned with the values of the business, which is then compared to the personal values. But as you said, it's hard to technically ask someone, like, you know, what are your values? Or maybe you don't necessarily want to ask them that, but you want to sort of understand what their values are. So, you know, is there a way that you can think of that is a different way of maybe asking someone, or just, you know, how you can pick up on people's values as well?
Absolutely. So I've got, as a part of what work I do with leaders and executives, I do like a whole hour session on values identification. It's such a beautiful process. It's always very emotional. But one of the questions I do use towards the end, I'll pick one of the three, because they're three very, very powerful questions. I think one of the most important questions you could ask potential staff, especially top tier staff that you're really going to take a big risk on hiring and investing in, is if you won maybe $40 billion. You got a phone call tomorrow, you win $40 billion, no strings attached, no one gets upset with you. You can't let anyone down. There'll be no guilt. You can do whatever you want and the world is your oyster. What will you do with that money? So you take that limitation of finance out, and then they tell you, maybe get them to tell you maybe 3 or 4 things. And then another add-on to that, which I absolutely love once they've said that, is then the next day you get another phone call and you find out that you have a terminal illness and you have 10 years to live. So what will you do less of? And I think if you frame it like that, you'll get a really good understanding for what really matters to that person. Not in a judgmental way as an employer or a business leader, but more of a really, okay, now I can sort of start understanding what matters to this person. And then you can judge, will that fit with the values of the company?
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful, to get rid of those surface level things, and find out what matters or doesn't matter in that way as well. So
I do love that question.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Definitely love it. And a lot of things in business as well as life is about believing in ourselves, right? Our self-belief. It's important for our success because our parents gave us a lot of limiting beliefs. It wasn't their fault. It's because their parents gave them to them and everything like that, passing down all these bad things that we doesn't serve us. So do you want to talk a little bit about self-belief and increasing that as well?
Absolutely. I think the number one limitation to anyone doing anything is a lack of self-belief. And obviously self-belief is what it is. It's like, I believe that I can do it. And even if I fail, that I can keep trying. And it's that essential backing that no matter what, you will get through it. And that's really hard to develop if, yes, as you said, if you haven't been raised in an environment where your parents are quite encouraging and supportive, even if they're critical, at least they're, encouraging and supportive and praise you. And so as I just described that, it's super important to celebrate wins. I think celebrating wins, a lot of us do things with a never-ending agenda, and we don't stop and set ourselves milestones to celebrate. So, even in business growth or studying something or trying something new, it's like, where are your milestones for where you're going to stop and say, okay, I did that really well, and go and celebrate it with something that makes you happy, because success fuels success. And if we don't stop to look back and notice, I did really well here, I really made it, I celebrated it, it actually makes you believe in yourself more. Like, I can do more, I can do better. And so who doesn't love celebrating anyway as well? That's always super fun. So I think that's really important in terms of developing self-belief. And another really important factor is actually, again, speaking up and communicating when it counts, because the more you're doing that, the more you're going to get more of what you want out of life, and essentially believe in yourself more and more that, yes, I can do this. Yes, I do have the skills, and what's stopping me.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. Definitely love celebrating the wins always. I do it with my clients too.
Yeah.
Let's do it along the way. Let's attract more of that celebration to us as well. Love that. And, another factor, a different way of looking at self-belief, or that's a cousin, so to speak, is like self-esteem at the same time, which is sort of how we think about ourselves. I guess that's my definition anyway, is, it's linked. So do you want to maybe talk about the differences and what we should be mindful of, with self-esteem as well?
Absolutely. And so, I mean, I'll ask, like, how, and listeners and yourself, how much time does everyone spend every day thinking about things that they've done wrong, or things that have gone wrong in the past, or negative qualities and things that they should do better?
Yeah, it pops up like, I'm getting better at it now, where your mind will go back and you're like, oh, I should have done that. And it was, but then I'm like, it's all right, it's done. Like, I have to just tell myself, don't worry about it, just focus on the future, type of thing like that. That's sort of my newer process, but it was more definitely before.
Absolutely. And so that's so common, and that's not a bad thing, because it makes us better people perform better. We look back, we reflect, and then we grow. But my question is, how much time comparatively do you, and obviously the listeners, spend thinking about all the things that you've done really well, and the times that you've done it beautifully, and all the amazing qualities that you show every single day, and all the amazing things you do every day?
Yeah, not as much probably, because it's like a normal thing, or it's like standard, but when it actually is much better as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we don't, because naturally the mind goes to negative, and we try to problem solve it so we avoid negative outcomes in the future. It's just a natural way that the brain works, but generating that lens as well. So when you reflect on your day or your week, what amazing things happened. And I'm talking about very basic things that we kind of write off, that we demonstrate every day, like kindness and caring and support and resilience and courage, that we demonstrate every single day, multiple times a day, but we just don't notice. So it's about opening up that, again, psychological flexibility and noticing how you might have been really caring or kind or strong or supportive or resilient in the last 24 to 48 hours, because you do that all the time, but you just don't notice.
Yeah, I love that. Really powerful, that introspection on, what's actually happened. So really powerful. And, we can get quite busy and, you talked about like, overwhelm and all these other things, right, that can happen in business, in life, in what we're doing. So, mindfulness becoming, more well-known and more powerful, right, and being important to have in our daily lives to get a bit of that reset. So, what is mindfulness? I'd love to hear that from your perspective, because it's a term, right? So how do you define that? And then maybe a way that we can be more mindful throughout our day.
Absolutely. So mindfulness is a top super secret weapon for most top athletes and high performance people. So Novak Djokovic uses it and practices it about 15 minutes every single day. And he said, if it's as important to me as my physical performance. So not just mindfulness, but psychological performance. And he absolutely loves it, uses it on the court when he's under high pressure. So you can imagine him against, Nadal or something, and the whole stadium's watching and the whole world's watching, and his thoughts are bouncing around all over the place. And he sits in that mindful space, not to get rid of the thoughts, but just to get a little bit of distance from them so he can do what really matters. So mindfulness is about being present and aware of your current experience in the moment without judgment and with curiosity. That's all it is. So it's not about making thoughts and feelings go away. It's not about turning them off. It's just to notice them for what they are and get a bit of distance from them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, interesting. I like that definition.
Beautiful.
This is why I asked, right? Because it's good to define it simply like that. Yeah.
Very simply. And I know there's so much content out there and it can get quite overcomplicated. So what I wanted to do, if you'd be happy to do this, do you want to do a quick mindfulness practice with me? And the listeners can do it as well as I say it.
Yeah, let's do it. Sounds awesome.
It'll take 30 seconds and it's just a basic mindfulness practice. And I always start with all my clients to do this exercise and to build a base and get more advanced from there. So it takes about 30 seconds. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just say a whole heap of things. And I want you to just not think at all. I just want you to do exactly as I say. And when I say non-judgmental, it means if I say, show me one thing you can see, I'd like you to say, I see a computer, and not, I see a computer, I don't like the color of it. So non-judgmental. So just describing.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. So please name 5 things you can see. Go.
Okay, I can see my computer screen. I can see my webcam. I can see my microphone. I can see my laptop, and I can see my lights.
Beautiful. 2 things you can hear.
2 things I can hear. I can hear some trains or something going on in the background, and I can obviously, hear your voice when you're speaking.
Beautiful.
But yeah.
Beautiful. And a couple of things you can feel.
Feel. I can feel that.
Physically, like the weight of your body in your chest.
Okay, so that way, the physical aspect. So I can feel. I've been sitting down for a while today, so I can feel my bottom. Sort of that weight of it a little bit there, and I can also feel just a sense of, I guess, calmness or something around my head, sort of forehead area at the same time.
Beautiful. And just notice one thought you're having.
One thought. One thought is, I'm just enjoying, being in my zone and connecting with you right now.
Beautiful. So that's it. That was mindfulness. So I'll ask you, were you thinking in that moment about yesterday?
No.
What are you thinking about tomorrow?
No.
You're 100% present in the moment, just noticing everything that was going on for you. And that's that mindful space. And when things are really stressful and overwhelming, you can always step back into that space. We call that the observer self. So there's a part of you that can notice your thoughts, what you can see, hear, touch, feel. And that gives you just that little bit of distance when it feels really stressful and overwhelming. So that's the beauty of mindfulness. So if you can practice that, and the listeners, if they would like to practice that, maybe for 30 seconds every day, it's a beautiful exercise. You can do it when you brush your teeth or something. And it's a skill that's a beautiful skill to develop, so that when things are super stressful, you can just become mindfully aware of what's going on.
Yeah, awesome. Love that. Thank you for sharing that and giving me a taste of mindfulness and all the watchers.
Did you like it? I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. I think, like you said, it's a lot of people think, you got to sit there and meditate for an hour or something like that. You don't, right? To do these things, it can be quick, which I love. And especially in, a peak performance or, a business world where we've got so many things going on, right? In what we're doing, just to take that quick little bit out, which is not much, right? It's easy to do. We can then refocus and get back into it. Yeah, really powerful.
Absolutely. And you can do that, like if you prefer, you can do, for example, mindfulness of sound. So you can spend like a minute, maybe 30 seconds, if a minute's too much in a stressful day, of just notice how many sounds you pick up for 30 seconds. Or even adding deep breathing into that, maybe watching a YouTube video of a jungle and just noticing everything you can see. If you spend 1 to 5 minutes doing that in a stressful, high pressure work day where you're constantly on, it gives you just a little bit of relief. And then you can refocus. And as you said, it improves performance. But again, I just want to drive home the point that mindfulness is not about getting rid of stress or making anything go away. It's just an attention shifting strategy and skill, so that you're not just hyper focused on the stress and the thoughts, but you're also kind of in your body and noticing the world around you.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Powerful stuff. And I know that you have a new masterclass called The Winning Triad of Peak Psychological Performance. So yeah, tell us more about it.
I do. Thank you for mentioning that. So it's basically what I do with clients of mine packaged up into a course. So it's for people who don't want to see me one-on-one or aren't committed to taking the time yet, would prefer to do the class online or the program online, but it basically trains you in everything that we talked about today to very intense, very fast degree. It takes about 4 hours all up. It's not a long course, but it's very content heavy. So I brought that out this year to give more access beyond what I can provide to clients in 1 week's time. So that's available online for anyone who wants to find out any more.
Yeah, awesome. Lovely. I'm sure you'll let us know a little bit more about how we can delve into that shortly. So it sounds very cool. And yeah, it's been a very powerful episode today, Daria. You've definitely got me thinking, and I'm sure you've got everybody thinking a bit more about their awareness and how we can, be better people with our psychology and how that transmits into our, life and business as well. And I guess as we're wrapping up, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
Believe in yourself.
I love it. So it's like so simple. That's all you need to know.
Literally, just believe in yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. And you go.
No, it is.
Yeah, and and all I would probably add, just from my perspective to that, is believe it in the present as well with what you're telling yourself. Like, I am successful, or whatever you want to believe about yourself.
Right? Or I can do this. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself in the present. I love that.
Yeah, I really love it. So great point. So simple and so effective, right? It doesn't have to be long. And that's what I think you've done really well today, is simplified, a lot of these topics where there is a lot out there, honed in on it, so we can get that awareness and then get that focus on how we can improve as well. So love that. Really powerful. And we connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey from, being in accounting and finance and business for 20 years, and then getting into, psychology with a doctorate and your own practice, and to now combining, executive coaching with psychology and making it extremely powerful as well. You're an amazing woman. I'm sure everyone will agree. And,
I'm sure
You're welcome. And I'm sure you'll continue to help, developing peak psychological performance, by fusing both executive coaching principles and psychological strategies. And, very grateful that we connected and look forward to working with you as well. So Daria, how can people find you, get in contact with you and learn more about, your masterclass?
Thank you so much, Athin. It's been such a pleasure today, and thank you to everyone for listening. And yeah, it's been fantastic to meet you too. I'm so glad we connected. If anyone wants to find me, all of the handles are New Wellness Group. So it's spelled NEU Wellness Group. So website is www.newwellnessgroup.com. Any socials are New Wellness Group. And obviously my name is Dr. Daria Kouznetsova. So you can find me by Google or on LinkedIn that way. And if anyone who's listened today is interested in the course that offers everything we've talked about, so the 3 skills that we've discussed, so psychological awareness and flexibility, emotional intelligence, and true assertiveness, and also values and self-belief and self-esteem building, more than welcome to jump online to my website and navigate to the Masterclass tab. And for anyone who is listening today who types in the code BGS, so for Business Growth Show, you will get 20% off for the next month.
Awesome. What a lovely deal there that Daria's done for us today. And sounds amazing, everyone. So definitely connect with Daria, find her on LinkedIn, check out the website, New Wellness Group and that course, and get the discount and enjoy it for yourself to really delve deeper and learn more about yourself. And it's been a pleasure. And thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. And I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you'll know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.